company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, Ministry of Immigration unravels a permanent residency scheme after the arrival of 9 Chinese nationals at the PGIA on January 15, 2023. Former Guantanamo Bay inmate held for terrorism resettling to Belize. Aquaponics system installed at the Compassion School in Yo Creek, Orange Walk. And the St. Peter's Anglican School celebrates Optimist Day. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Thursday, February 2nd, 2023.
I am ready. You are getting the new and improved me. This is nice.
I think what really impressed him was the fact that I didn't turn into a monster.
Bring on the heat!
It's about a relationship that hopefully many people can relate to.
Enjoy your favorite HBO original series and movies with
Centaur, your kind of company.
Notice: the general public is hereby notified that the offices of the Orange Walk Town Council and the Municipal Traffic Authority will be closed on Tuesday, February 7, 2023. This is necessary so our staff can go on an all-day customer service training. At the Town Council, we continuously equip our employees to continue serving you efficiently. We apologize for all inconvenience caused.
Good evening with your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. On Sunday, January 15th, 9 Chinese nationals landed in Belize illegally at the PGIA and as a result were taken into police custody for questioning. The 3 men and the 6 women who arrived on a commercial flight each presented questionable permanent residences. As a result, they were questioned by Immigration Department officials and then handed over to authorities for further questioning. We understand the individuals claim to be residents of Belize despite never having set foot in the country before. So, if the individuals never legally resided in Belize for a minimum of 1 year, as required by law to obtain permanent residence amongst other requirements, how did they obtain the document? That was exactly the subject of the investigation by immigration officials. But the investigation into that case unraveled a much larger scheme at the Immigration Department. According to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Immigration, Amon Courtney, the investigation has unraveled the distribution of a number of fraudulent permanent resident cards. While he would not reveal the amount, we understand the department is looking at approximately 40 fake cards, including those of the Chinese nationals. All cards have been revoked.
The Commissioner of Police has provided a senior police officer from the CIB. We have consulted with the Director of Public Prosecutions, who has advised as to what investigations and statements are to be taken, and those are being done. I do not wish to prejudice that investigation. What I will say is this: I have been shown files where it is clear as day that fraud has been committed. Permanent resident cards have been issued fraudulently. Those that we have seen have been cancelled, and it is my expectation that there will be an investigation and a report by the police, and I will hope that whoever was involved in it will have their day in court.
According to Courtney, the fraud was perpetrated under this current administration. The minister also outlined how the scheme came to the fore.
There is a daily monitoring of flights coming into Belize and the place of origin. And in very late December, it was observed that an unusually high number of Chinese nationals were coming from a specific part of China, which is not where most Chinese come from who come to Belize. That was flagged by the director, who informed me, and we asked for the files. And it became immediately apparent that fraud had been committed. And from there, the investigations have proceeded. I am very disappointed. I am aggrieved, to use your word. I don't want to say too much, Jules, because unlike the compul, I prefer to let paper and let witnesses do the talking, and not to say anything that will prejudice ongoing investigations. But what we have seen is serious, and we have put in place measures to address it. And we have to put in place, you see, when you set out to issue a fraudulent document, there are not many systems that can prevent you from issuing that document. It is only when the document is used that we say, wait, what is this? Go back to the files. So it's very difficult upfront to prevent it. What we have to do is to more closely monitor persons arriving in Belize with permanent residence or leaving Belize with permanent resident cards. In this particular case, we also, I believe, as a result of what we're seeing, have to have much closer monitoring of the files. A very clever scheme has been used in these instances, and as I say, I don't want to get into the details, but it is very difficult to catch what has been done until the person uses the card to come in or out.
Currently, traces are being carried out to ensure that none of the fraudulent permanent residence holders obtain nationality.
We are also, of course, and I can say this, looking at all of those cards to see whether, and to go back over files, to see whether anybody would have gotten nationality on the basis that they had one of these cards, which we were not aware of, that purports to say they have been here for 5 years, and then applied for nationality. If we find that, they will be cancelled.
So, 3 questions arise. Is it factual that, in fact, a former employee and a deceased person, that her name was used to ostensibly issue the cards, which would have been impossible? Is that the clever scheme you allude to? The second thing that arises is how these things usually work. From experience, we know that when fake cards are issued, or any type of fake document, visas as well, the receiving party at immigration, at whichever immigration port, whether it be the airport or one of the land borders, are apprised and paid presumably in advance, and they process the fraudulent persons and they slide right into the system. And then the third question that arises is that are there indeed, if there are, I'm told 40 were issued in this particular batch, do you know the whereabouts, if it is indeed that number, of the other 31?
You mean the actual cards?
Yeah, 40 PR cards.
First of all, the first 2 questions you asked, I won't get into the details of that for obvious reasons. I'm not going to comment on any staff member or any former staff member or anything like that, or the process or the payment. I have no, as they say, I see with evidence that somebody get paid or anything like that. So I'm not going to comment on that or speculate. In relation to the amount, and I said it was more than 9, we have cancelled those cards. So those persons, wherever they are, if they believe that their cards are valid, once they attempt to use them, they will not be recognized.
Regarding the 9 Chinese nationals, they have been deported. The discovery of the fraudulent permanent residences was made just a few days after Prime Minister John Briceño announced the reassignment of Minister of State Ramon Cervantes Jr. from the Ministry of Immigration to the Ministry of Sustainable Development. While the PM has stated that the move was made in an effort to continue to strengthen governance and enhance Cabinet's performance, there are those who tend to link the Immigration Department's latest unravel with Cervantes' reassignment. Today, however, Minister Courtney clarified that Cervantes nor any other minister is being linked to the clever scheme.
Let me repeat, to the best of my information at this time, and I have no reason to believe otherwise at this time, Minister Cervantes is not connected with these cards. From what I have seen, I have no reason to believe that.
And any ministerial level players, based on what we've seen in the past from 2000 to 2017?
Not that I have, not that, what I have seen are files, cards, information in the files, some text messages, some statements from the interviews, and that is sufficient for me to conclude that there is fraud here. The fraud would not require a ministerial discretion to be exercised. In other words, a permanent resident card is not issued by a minister, and so a minister would not have to exercise their discretion and therefore be involved in that. So, as I say, from what I have seen up to today, I have not seen anything that would include Minister Cervantes.
No letters of recommendation, that was the popular thing with the UDP.
No, I have not seen any. And the files that I looked at did not have any letter of recommendation. And no letters of recommendation are needed for permanent residents.
Minister, however, there's been some suspicion that's been infused into the whole thing when in the House of Representatives, the leader of opposition questioned the Prime Minister in relation to one of his ministers being on a watch list, I think is what he said. And then, of course, you look at the portfolios that you have and understand that it's a whole lot of work, and it was useful to have Cervantes there. Can you speak to that, to have to move him like this when the help was useful?
Minister Cervantes and I worked together. We had absolutely no difficulties. The Prime Minister, for the reasons that he has already explained, made his decision, and that is all I will say on that.
Minister of State Honorable Ramon Cervantes Jr. now supports Honorable Orlando Habet, Minister of Sustainable Development, Climate Change, and Disaster Risk Management, assisting with responsibility for NEMO, the Belize National Fire Service, and the Belize Solid Waste Management Authority. With individuals able to crack the system at the Immigration Department and create and issue fake permanent residencies, the new passport system is being put to question. The Electronic Passport Issuance and Control System, EPICS, has been hailed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Eamon Courtney, as a secure and more efficient upgrade to Belize's former and outdated system. And today, he reassured Belizeans that the new system eliminates any possibility of fraud. He also spoke about the delay in distribution of the new passports.
In terms of the integrity of the system, I have full confidence in it. And if, to use Jules Vasquez's word, if that passport system can be gamed by someone, then we will have to have a very serious discussion with the people who designed it in Canada. Because they have given us a very high level of assurance, and I have used it and I have seen how it works. So I am confident that we will not have any type of fraud with respect to passports. Very briefly, we did an assessment of the amount of passports that were being processed. And therefore, we ordered passports on the basis of that, plus, in other words, I don't remember the exact figures right now, but if we were processing 500 per week, we would have ordered program for 700. So it was a significant amount in excess. As I have said before, we clearly miscalculated the amount that the amount of demand, and therefore the initial stock ran down far quicker. Now, it's not a store that you just go and buy the balance. We have to put in an order. We had orders programmed, so we had to bring some forward, which required them to stop printing the passport for some other country and put in ours and print some, send it to us so that we could continue. The long and short of it is that we have been restocked at the end of January. What we are concentrating on, and this is what is the cause for the delay. The cause for the delay has nothing to do with staff, the amount of staff. But remember, when we ran out, for all intents and purposes, I mean, we had a few, but we just didn't want to use those sparingly. But what happened is that people who had applied, we couldn't get their passports to them. So we are concentrating on delivering those passports in backlog to people who have applied a long time ago. Let me just be clear. At the same time, there are people who have emergencies, there are people who have absolute need to travel, students going back to school, people traveling abroad for medical, so on and so forth. We will process, and we are processing those.
The passports carry an electronic chip, which according to Honorable Courtney holds numerous security features to safeguard holders' personal information. U.S. officials have found a country to take in a notorious Guantanamo detainee who finished his shortened sentence last year. Majid Khan is originally from Pakistan and received asylum in the USA post the September 11 bombing of the Twin Towers. The 42-year-old has been released from Guantanamo Bay and transported by the U.S. Navy to Belize. Our research has found out that Majid Khan was sentenced by a U.S. military jury in October 2021 to serve 26 years in prison, starting from the time he first pleaded guilty to war crimes on February 28, 2012. Khan pleaded guilty to delivering $50,000 from Pakistan to an al-Qaeda affiliate that used the funds to blow up a Marriott hotel in Indonesia in 2003 and kill an estimated 12 people. In 2002, Convening Authority for Military Commissions Jeffrey D. Wood followed recommendations from a military panel and reduced Khan's sentence to 10 years, meaning his sentence concluded on March 1st of the same year. Under current law, Guantanamo detainees cannot be taken to the United States, and as such, he has resettled in Belize. Here is an excerpt from MNBC News in the USA.
We have breaking news out of Guantanamo Bay. Just this morning, the Biden administration transferred a detainee from that facility and is preparing the transfer of at least 2 more in the next couple of weeks. That's according to 2 senior officials and a former senior administration official. Joining us now, NBC News Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kuby. Courtney, good morning. What can you tell us about this detainee and why did the transfer happen?
So there's a couple things that are unusual about this. This is Majid Khan. He's a Pakistani citizen, but he's actually also was a resident of the United States. He spent his high school years in Baltimore. After graduating from high school, the U.S. granted him asylum after the attacks on September 11th. He returned to Pakistan and joined al-Qaeda, ultimately working for al-Qaeda's operations chief, its planning operations chief, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. So he was the only detainee to be held at Gitmo who had a status in the United States. As you mentioned, he moved from Guantanamo Bay this morning, flew to Belize, where he will be resettled. This is the first time that the Biden administration has resettled a detainee. So they have repatriated them, sent them to other countries. But this individual, Majid Khan, was actually cleared for release prior to this decision to send him to Belize. This took months and months of diplomatic wrangling and discussions to decide where to send him. A senior State Department official telling me that they're very pleased with the decision for Belize to take him in because they believe that they were very thoughtful and thorough in their decision-making process, ensuring that they would be able to secure him safely in that country and that they would be able to provide for him and for his future. He was cleared for release from Guantanamo nearly a year ago in March of 2022. He's not the only one at Gitmo who has been cleared for release. We also write in our story that we just put out online that there's 2 other brothers, the Rabbani brothers, also Pakistani, Ahmed and Abdul. They both have been cleared for release from Guantanamo Bay. The U.S. is working to get them and other detainees who are cleared for diplomatic relations or diplomatic agreements with other countries to get them repatriated in the coming weeks and months as well, Jose.
So, Courtney, sorry, because so he's been sent to Belize. He was cleared for release. So is he free in Belize or is he detained there?
He is. The U.S. is very particular. They don't like to talk about the specifics of any of the security arrangements or humanitarian arrangements that they make with countries in these agreements. But he is cleared for release. In fact, a senior State Department official said at this point there are no specific plans for his wife and teenage daughter, whom he's never met, to join him in Belize. But the hope is that they will be able to join him in the coming weeks and months. The belief is that when they're surrounded by families, the detainees, they have a much better chance of moving into society, becoming a productive part of the society there. So the State Department official I spoke with about this is hopeful that, in fact, his family will actually be able to join him there.
The convict's wife and the children are still in Pakistan and will join Khan here in Belize soon. 42-year-old Majid Khan arrived in Belize this morning at 7:58. He was handed over to the government of Belize representatives by the U.S. authorities. At a press conference this morning, Minister of Foreign Affairs Eamon Courtney, flanked by U.S. Ambassador Michelle Kwan, provided details of Khan's resettlement, describing it as a humanitarian act.
Mr. Khan was involved in certain terrorist activities between 2002 and 2003. He was captured in March 2003 in Pakistan and has been in custody since then, just under 20 years. After his capture, Mr. Khan was held at various CIA black sites. During this time, Khan was subjected to the most horrific torture, including waterboarding, forced enemas, starvation, sleep deprivation, beatings, sexual assaults, grueling interrogations, and mental torture. In September 2006, he was transferred to the U.S. Guantanamo Bay detention camp in Cuba. That is approximately 16 years ago. In 2007, Mr. Khan was finally given access to lawyers, and he negotiated a plea deal in exchange for cooperating with U.S. authorities by providing them with valuable intelligence. On the 29th of February 2012, he pleaded guilty before a military commission at Guantanamo Bay and was sentenced to a 10-year prison term that concluded on the 1st of March 2022. The United States government formally requested the government of Belize to consider resettling Mr. Khan in Belize as a humanitarian act. After extended negotiations with the U.S. government and careful analysis, the Cabinet of Belize approved Mr. Khan's resettlement in Belize at the cost of the United States government.
According to Courtney, Khan is not in Belize as a detainee, as he has served his sentence and is a free man. He also announced that the U.S. government is providing all the funds to cover Khan's integration into Belizean society.
Mr. Khan is not a terrorist. He has fully recanted, accepted responsibility for his action, and asked Allah for forgiveness, and he has been de-radicalized. Mr. Khan will therefore be free to travel throughout the country, to study, to work, to start a business, and to make the most of the rest of his life after 20 years in detention. Importantly, the government of Belize has determined that Mr. Khan does not, I repeat, does not pose a threat to the security of Belizeans. In making this determination, the government of Belize relied heavily on the assessments prepared by the U.S. officials who interviewed him over the years and who are satisfied that he is truly remorseful and simply wants to move on with his life. Belizean authorities who have interviewed Mr. Khan in Guantanamo Bay are satisfied that he is not a security risk, that he is sincere and looking forward to a new future in Belize. As part of that resettlement process, the government of Belize has put in place a proactive multi-agency monitoring mechanism to monitor his activities, facilitate his integration into Belizean society. Furthermore, Mr. Khan will not be issued a travel document and will not be allowed to travel internationally for several years.
Courtney says the decision to accept Khan into Belize elevates Belize's profile and is served to strengthen relations with the U.S.
The decision to accept Khan once again elevates Belize's profile on the international scene. It confirms our position as a partner interested in contributing to solving the critical causes of justice and peace around the world. We also see Khan's resettlement within a broader context of continuing to build and strengthen the vital relationship Belize shares with the United States of America, including our bilateral political, security, trade, and financial system relations, and the Belizean diaspora.
A house and vehicle will be purchased for Khan. Coming up next, we take you to Compassion School, where students now have a newly installed aquaponics system. Stay tuned.
Notice, The general public is hereby notified that the offices of the Orange Walk Town Council and the Municipal Traffic Authority will be closed on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. This is necessary so our staff can go on an all-day customer service training. At the Town Council, we continuously equip our employees to continue serving you efficiently. We apologize for all inconvenience caused.
¡Es hoy! ¡Por fin es hoy!
A rodar.
¡Sí, señor!
¡Esto va a estar bueno!
Enjoy your favorite HBO original series and movies with
Centaur, your kind of company.
Am I missing a tooth?
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yes!
Enjoy your favorite HBO original series and movies with
Centaur, your kind of company.
An aquaponics system has been installed and inaugurated at the Compassion School in Yeo Creek. It was built by funders in Canada. Our news team was on hand for the inauguration. Here is that story.
Since 2008, Millwood Christian School have been visiting Belize and funding projects that would enhance education for chosen schools scattered mostly outside the towns and cities of our country. This year, Millwood Christian School did it again. School students accompanied their principal and administrator Dan and Jacqueline Vandermeer from Alberta, Canada to Belize in order to volunteer their time and build an aquaponics system that was today inaugurated and officially handed over to the Compassion School.
We came across Compassion. This was one of the schools that we came to visit, and instantly fell in love with their kids and their community, their teaching staff. And we committed that we're going to come back. Every year we come back, we need to come and visit them. The Ministry of Agriculture has been in communication with several of the principals, and one of the lead teachers that we have that oversees acquiring the fish and getting the food. And they've really been helping schools to understand the science, I guess, behind the projects and how to properly care for the fish and to get the most efficiency they can out of the systems. So while we were away, the communities here in Belize just really took it to the next level, more than we could have ever done.
But what is an aquaponics system? It is any system that uses aquatic animals when growing plants in water to the benefit of both the animals and the plants. Principal of Millwood Christian School explains.
We've come across putting together aquaponics projects where schools will get a huge tilapia tank that they can raise fish in. The water from the tilapia waste goes into grow beds, and then the plants benefit from the ammonia and so on from the fish. The root systems clean the water, and it goes back to the fish. So as we've been working around, we had always wanted to do a project with Compassion, a project, but their playground space isn't very big. So we decided to ask them if we could downsize it just a little bit, take a smaller footprint and put it into the corner of their property here, and they said yes.
And that encouraged the students and staff of Millwood Christian School to fundraise and put together all that was needed to make the project a reality.
So our students fundraise to come to Belize, and part of that fundraising also includes any projects that we do. So this is from donations from community members from our school in Edmonton, but also business owners, fundraising that the students have done themselves. It's all part of what we do to make sure that it's not a big cost for the schools here.
What's the grant figure?
I think at last count it's about $5,600 US that it costs. So.
And that was because you excluded the cost of work paying for people to build it because your students came over.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and we do have some gentlemen from the community that help us with their expertise, because obviously coming from Canada, we're not experts at this, but they have been great working with our kids and teaching them the skills so that our students not only get the benefit of serving here, but they've also learned some skills now too that they will have for their lifetime.
The goal is to sustain a system that will ultimately involve staff, students, and the community who are the direct beneficiaries of the project.
In this entire region, there are many schools in the rural communities that don't have really large populations of students, and we've just found that many times they're underserved communities, and so we always ask, and we gift these projects to schools we have a relationship with as well. But we have an understanding from the principals what the need is in the community. So where we see that there could be some benefit for either helping with the feeding program or even just selling the tilapia to raise a little bit of extra money to buy technology and things for the school, we just do an assessment from our school and say, yeah, that's a community that could really benefit from this.
Nari Ball from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise introduced the 300 tilapias into the water. With that move, Principal Manuel Rejon says that Compassion School will now ensure that their aquaponics system remains alive and productive.
Well, first of all, I need to educate myself, educate my staff, and then so that we can then educate our children on how to go about growing these fish here in this aquaponics project here at school. I myself am learning, and so I will try to get help from, I would say, the Ministry of Agriculture and from other schools that I know that they have this system in their schools. So I will try to see if I could learn from them what are their stories, success stories, and so that we can have a successful system here at school as well.
Today's event is a combination of hard work behind scenes of your school, others involved, and the ones who funded this from Canada. What you want to tell them?
Well, I want to express my sincere gratitude to this group from Canada, to my staff, to the parents who also helped, even our church, the church members who volunteered to do some work here as well. I want to express my gratitude to all of them, and to God as well, because He is the one in control, and because of Him, I think we have this project now at our school.
Millwood Christian School has committed 2 years to monitor the outcomes of the funded project. Elmer Cornejo, CTV3 News.
On November 16, 2022, Belize submitted an application for the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to issue a judgment on Honduras's claim, embedded in Article 10 of its constitution, that the Sapo de la Keys are part of its territory. The release notes that the application was submitted to the registrar of the ICJ, located in The Hague, Netherlands, and that by means of the application, Belize is seeking a financial and binding resolution to the matter. In its application to the ICJ, Belize notes that the Sapo de la Keys, located 75 miles east of Punta Gorda, have been a part of Belize's territory since the early 19th century, initially as part of the settlement of Belize and later the colony of British Honduras, and since 1981 as part of the independent state of Belize. It also states that sovereignty over the Keys has been peacefully, publicly, and continuously manifested through a number of acts, including the exercising of jurisdiction by magistrates over the Keys, such as in relation to criminal matters, salvage claims, and the suppression of piracy, the construction of lighthouses, the granting of licenses and concessions in relation to natural resources, the regulation of land ownership, fishing and entry to the Sapo de la Keys, and the conducting of military activities in and around the Keys. Today, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Eamon Courtney, gave us an update on the matter.
The ICJ president met with both the parties last week, I think it was, in The Hague and to set the pleadings schedule. Both sides explained to the court what our respective positions were, and we are awaiting the order from the court as to when Belize will have to put in its memorial, when Honduras will put in its counter memorial. So that's where that is.
Optimists tend to do better in life. They take their lives into their own hands, be proactive about securing a better future for themselves and their loved ones, and balance essential relationships, creating a healthy work-life balance. Today, St. Peter's Anglican School took the time to celebrate Optimist Day with students, and Elmer Cornejo has the story.
Today is International Optimist Day. During these turbulent times, it might seem naive to be an optimist intentionally, but practicing optimism even in uncertain times may have its benefits. Today, one such school found it necessary to incite students the importance of being an optimist. That school is St. Peter's Anglican School.
Optimist International celebrates this day of promoting optimism to the kids by doing certain programs. So one of them is the cleaning program, and one of them is the feeding program sponsored by the mayor. And that pretty much just promotes a good behavior in them, in their environment, and learning to have a certain responsibility, which promotes a sort of optimistic behavior in them. And yeah, that's pretty much the goal for today.
However, that general positive outlook is not enough to compensate for an adverse view of the state the world finds itself in today. But they say that to make a change it must start somewhere, and Mayor Ledrick Shepherd increased the optimism of 48 students of the institution today by providing them with a hot meal. Since the mayor was unable to attend today's event, Deputy Mayor Joyce Canton stepped in for him.
Since last year, the mayor signed a proclamation form that we recognize, we acknowledge this group, and we believe in this group. We are partnering with them in sponsoring the feeding program that St. Peter's has. And the mayor and the Orange Walk Town Council believe in Optimistic because this group is giving back to the youths. And the youths are the future of Belize. So we engage with them. Right now we're sponsoring with them, and right now they're going to feed 48 students from St. Peter's. And so this group is all about giving back and being optimistic. Even though things are hard, things are challenging, we must remain optimistic. And we always believe in giving back to these groups, giving back to the community, and just building a brighter and better future for everyone. The mayor would just like to tell everyone that we would like to thank the group for doing this activity, for being optimistic, for bringing, positive, encouraging vibes to these youths, because without the youth, we don't have a bright and good future for Belize. So we would just like to tell the kids that I hope that they appreciate, that they enjoy, and that they remain positive, and that they continue in school doing the best that they can, and they will have a bright and positive future.
As for Councillor Dorette Pascasio, who is also a teacher at the school, practicing optimism is all about a balancing act.
Today at St. Peter's Anglican School, we are celebrating Optimist Day. What are we celebrating, boys and girls? Optimism! All right, you might ask yourself, what is optimism? Well, an optimism sees the positive things in life. That's what they do. They believe that they have the skill and ability to make things happen. Today is the International Day of Optimism, meaning that it is celebrating worldwide. And we're doing it here in Belize as well. It is celebrated on February 2nd, and this year it is celebrated today, also on February 2nd. This day focuses on building a sustaining and positive future for the children. The children are the future of Belize, so it is very important that we celebrate a day like today.
International Optimistic Day is celebrated on the first Thursday of each year. Elmer Cornejo, CTV3 News.
And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Friday, February 3rd here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/CTV3BelizeNews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.